I know somebody usually has like they're like, all right, we're gonna get started, guys in the back. Keep your find your seats, that'd be amazing. If these guys in the front row could. I am Mario, this is Orchestructure, and we are hosted at Duo this month. Thank you very much to Zach Steinler and Duo's management for helping us get this all set up. Thank you to you for coming and making this meetup a thing. Yeah, give yourself so we did not have a meetup last month. We will have one next month, so September, and then October, and we are off November and December. So just a couple more to kind of round out fall, and then we will be closed up. And we have something that the board is working on for early next year. So more details on that coming soon. Obviously, I think I've talked about this before. DevOps Days Detroit is coming up October 23rd and 24th. I am no longer organizing it, but Dave Barnett and a few others in the indirects as well are helping kind of set that up. And it's going to be a really great time this year as well, even better than last, I think. So ask questions. I can help you figure out who to talk to, and any board member can help you figure out how to get tickets for that or sponsor, etc. So really good event. What else is going on in Ann Arbor? I don't live here anymore, so the summer's coming to a close, so get outside as much as you can.
The students are already here. Now it's time to run.
So I'm going to open up the floor to announcements, and then we will get started. So if anyone has any announcements, feel free to just stand up and start yelling one at a time. I think.
I'm going to stand up.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Alec. So if you are also interested in Go, which I feel like probably there's a fair amount of overlap here, we are starting a Go meetup in Ann Arbor. Our first meeting is on September 10th. It's a Tuesday at like 6 or something at Cahoots in their new event space. We're the first event in their new event space, which is not done yet. So yeah, things always finish on time, right? Anyhow, a2go.org is a domain that you can type into your internet browser. I think there's like 25 people signed up so far. So. Yeah.
He explained like on fire everything. Yeah, thank you, Brandon. More details, Brandon will post in the Slack channel. We can send that out as well. Anyone else have any announcements about other things that are going on that people should know about? Good.
I just know about it. I'm not affiliated, but I know that Dave Koziol of Arbor Moon is coordinating Michigan Dev Fest 2019, and it's Saturday, September 21st.
That sounds exciting, actually. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. He's got a bunch of tracks. He said he worked to lower the price to make it accessible. And the Google Development Group, I mean, I'm just looking, it's in downtown Detroit. Early bird tickets are now on sale at michigandevfest.com. And if you want me to read what's here, I can read it.
That's okay. Go ahead and post it to our Slack channel, and one of us will get it out there as well. That sounds really great. He's David, the Google Developer Group.
Right.
He runs the one in Arbor, and I've heard really good things from people about that. So that's awesome that that's going on. Cool.
It's 10 to $35. Wow,
okay,
it's like
so
super cheap.
Yeah, but there's probably food and other things like that. Prices and better stickers than ours, right? Also stickers in the back. Cool. Good.
A couple things. This Saturday, if you've been playing the Ann Arbor District Library summer game, they're having a game over gala with an auction for fabulous prizes with your summer game points. That's Saturday the 31st. I think it's at 3. There's a little football game that evening.
Are they playing the football game?
A little football game. If you happen to find yourself in Berlin, the 20th through the 22nd of September, or even better yet, if you know someone who I should meet in Berlin.
I know someone you should meet in Berlin.
Okay. Packet is sponsoring a conference called All Systems Go in Berlin, hosted by Kinfolk, like user space Linux stuff. I will be happy to do a report from it. Okay.
Awesome. Cool. No, we would love that.
And one more thing. So if you, like me, in your life have accumulated trash, particular broken furniture or home toxics. There are two things you should know about. Until the 4th of September, there is a free dumpster on East University at Oakland that you can put your old mattresses and broken chairs and scrap metal into that the city runs for student move out, which might be useful. And then later in September, there's a home toxics collection day in Pittsfield Township where you can take your horrible household chemicals and wow. The first one is totally free. The Pittsfield Township event is donation requested but not required.
Gotcha.
And that's sponsored by Washington County.
Wow, thank you. Actually, round of applause. Our resident helping you live better.
Get rid of your
Advil med. Awesome, thank you. All right, in the interest of time, let's get going. Today we have Chris Short. Many of you know him as he's presented actually on Go before at Orchestructure. He's presented on many other things across other DevOps Days events and other programming events almost worldwide, right? International. He runs the DevOps-ish newsletter, and he has a very active blog. He put some good effort into it, and it's not ad-ridden, a little bit, It's not bad. Go check it out. It's pretty solid.
It takes time.
I know. See, he puts effort into it. So his presentation, Building Kubernetes Operators with Ansible. He's working with Red Hat for 2 years.
Year and 1 month.
Wow.
2 months.
Wow. Well, congratulations on the anniversary. Welcome, Chris Short, everybody.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Chris Short. I work at Red Hat. I used to work on the Ansible team, and 2 weeks ago I joined the OpenShift team, but I had already been working with OpenShift quite a bit on this, Kubernetes Operators with Ansible. All right, so show of hands, who knows Kubernetes in here? Okay, should I explain Kubernetes for the room, or should I skip over that? Please? Okay. Just needed to do that. There's a bunch of Kubernetes intro stuff. So yeah. All right. So Mario, thank you for the great introduction. Thank you, Zach, for hosting us. I just got off a plane and came back from Chicago and did a teacher meet the parents thingy. So yes, I'm a little punchy. All right, let's get started. So what is an operator? Well, we're all operators, right? We all operate Kubernetes clusters. Well, wait a minute. We want some code to operate stuff too, right? That's what an operator is essentially. Code to do that day 2 kind of management inside Kubernetes. So the Operator SDK makes Ansible a first-class citizen in the sense of you can write an operator in Go, the native language of Kubernetes, or you can write a Helm chart and turn that into an operator, or even better, you can use Ansible instead of Go or Helm chart to write an operator to do all the fun things that, I don't know, like database management or backups or, well, anything inside your cluster, really. So what does Kubernetes help do? So who here knows what Docker is? Who here has a container or 2 that they have running? Okay, good. So Kubernetes answers the questions, what the hell do I do with all these Docker containers, or any container for that matter? But the nice thing is that you can extend it. And it has been extended. Version 1.16 beta 1 just dropped, 2 beta, something like that. So what does the extension what do these extensions look like? Well, they're APIs. You can create these APIs to do any number of things. Graceful rolling updates, like the teal deploys, go blue to green at the same time and then roll out. But basically, Kubernetes is designed to have a service or have a pod, which is a container and friends, run at scale, persistently as you desire, in an HA kind of fashion. So Kubernetes has what they call objects. This is probably already out of date. Let me hide this because I'm sure there's another object or 2 that has been added recently. So basically think of, I don't know, like this is the really basic stuff. This moves into like we're going to deliver services, and this moves into like actual cluster management stuff. But the basic premise of Kubernetes is a pod. A pod is usually a single container, but thanks to Istio and sidecars, it could be multiple containers. It was actually designed to be as many containers as you want, but good architecture would lead you to have one container in a single pod so that you could scale it horizontally without a lot of effort. You can take those pods and then create what they call deployment. What that deployment does is then say, hey, I need 14 of these pods running across all these nodes. Make sure that if one fails, you just recreate it. Or if one fails, leave it alone and let me go look at the log. If you go further out, you can have a service. So a service actually says, hey, this thing has this port open, delivered to the rest of the cluster. Create an ingress and you can open your application up to the world. Now, that's very basic, very simple. It's a shitload of YAML. If you ever have any questions, the documentation is fantastic. I break stuff all the time in Kubernetes and literally open the doc, find the thing and read it. If you're doing something brand new in Kubernetes Slack channel is fantastic too. You drop in there, figure out which thing you're working on, falls under which SIG, and you're off and running. They'll help you out. All right. So like I said, it's a shitload of YAML. This isn't really that bad though. On the left, you've got a pod definition. Starts a container, has a port that's opened up, done. On the right, you have that service that actually delivers that port on port 80 here. Human readable-ish, kind of. You can kind of understand. The biggest thing is group version kind. Obviously, the API version is huge. This tells you what version of Kubernetes API to use. But the group version kind, you'll see that throughout the YAMLs. Those are the important things for operators. All right, so how do you extend Kubernetes? Custom resources. What is a custom resource? Or YAML. It's actually, you can define API endpoints with literally YAML in Kubernetes. It's fantastic. So if I want to create my own API, it's a label. I can just label it whatever, and that works across the entire cluster. The kind, that's important too, as will tell you what the thing is doing, and yeah, you can make as many of these as you want. A lot of Red Hat makes OpenShift. There's a ton of custom CRs or custom resources that we make to make OpenShift run happily inside all kinds of places. But
what are some other examples of kind?
There's more.
Okay.
We're gonna I might actually build one if we have enough time. So yeah, we'll get into all this fun stuff. So there's a great article. It's a Medium article. I hate Medium, but I'll send you to it anyway. Look it up. Extending Kubernetes APIs with custom resource definitions. Super fun. But you can utilize anything in the cluster as a custom resource. So who in here knows Ansible? Lots of people. 2 hands in the back. Zach's all about it. Who here knows Go? I know Brandon does. I know a little smidgen of Bit, right? Like, yeah. So if you're a Go engineer, you're like, yeah, why would I ever write an operator in Ansible? Well, 5 people raised their hand. More people know Ansible than Go. So putting Ansible into Kubernetes is kind of a natural fit. They both make things easier to do, right? Like orchestration with Ansible and orchestration with Kubernetes are 2 great things that you can do. They're both open source projects that are huge. They call it the Octoverse from GitHub. I think Ansible was 8 and Kubernetes was 7 or something like that. So they're neck and neck as far as like size on GitHub. Like I said, Kubernetes is on Slack. Ansible's a little older. It's on IRC. Huge communities there. If you want to talk about Ansible security, there's an IRC channel for that. You want to talk about Ansible, just the engine itself, there's an IRC channel for that. And then both use YAML. So all the YAML linting, all the YAML you're used to in Ansible, some of those tools still can cross over. So on the left, you have a Kubernetes definition file here, and on the right, you have the same thing in Ansible. Now, all you're doing is calling the K8s module in Ansible. And And then that allows you to access Kubernetes natively. So you can literally use Ansible like kubectl if you want. I don't recommend it, but you could. The case module has been worked on by a bunch of people at Red Hat over the years. Last summer, they did a massive rewrite of it, took it from thousands of lines down to like 100. And it's basically like streamlined as fast as possible for Python right now. So it's not going to add a lot of overhead, hopefully. Depending upon what you're doing, obviously. All right. So if I want to deploy a config map, I can use Ansible. Well, why is that handy? What is a config map, first of all? Config map is a configuration file in Kubernetes. It is essentially a mountable volume that has your configuration defined inside it. Your application can then call that, but why would you want to template it? Well, things change all the time. It'd be great if you had this wonderful configuration management tool called Ansible that could just deploy these templates for you at will when things change. So this is basically, it's using the lookup plugin in Ansible to blow out a YAML definition file for whatever foo is. All right, so what are operators? Kind of went over this. Stateless is easy. We all know this, right? But if you have a stateless application, chances are it doesn't really do much when it's just sitting there. So stateful is hard. That's what businesses are built on. That's what whole empires are built on, state, literally. So the Operator SDK was built by CoreOS. Red Hat bought CoreOS. They're all still with us, or most of them are still with us. But they came up with this idea that, like, you have this thing in Kubernetes that starts, you have this other thing in Kubernetes that starts, but what actually makes them talk to each other? For example, a database. Master, secondary, how do you get that working? How do you get it synced? If it goes off, if one goes offline, how do you handle failover? That's where operators come in. You can define all of those situations and however you want them handled through an operator. That operator will maintain the state of whatever application you're trying to manage, as well as handle everything from graceful restarts of services across a cluster to you could totally deploy your entire application stack with one operator if you wrote it out correctly. So what does that mean? If you can write it in Ansible, you can kind of take that really hard stuff you already have and maybe port it into Kubernetes. So if you can make your application a container and all that Ansible stuff that you have to manage the states, configuration, the whole 9 yards, little rewrite, case module, off you're going with Ansible operators. So that's the value add there. So the Operator SDK, a couple years old, like I said, takes human knowledge, puts it in the cluster, right? So how do you manage backups in your organization? Where do they go? All those things. You can put it in an operator and off you go. For example, patching, upgrading, recovery from failures, tuning, all that stuff can be brought into your operator and kind of make it intelligent to make your services inside Kubernetes more resilient. Basically, day two management is the idea here. It's easy to start stuff. It's hard to maintain it. That's what operators help with. So without an operator, Kubernetes can do a lot of self-healing. But like I said, if you have a database pair and all of a sudden one goes out, it's not really designed to do that, failover by itself. It needs a lot of help. So manually doing that in Kubernetes is no fun. So write an operator once to do it for you. So what does the operator do? It watches. It actually creates what we call a watch file. So it creates a custom resource, like I said, and then it has your application state. And what happens is it has a controller that watches the state of that application. It sees any events from that API. If you have a action triggered in your operator, it will see it, reconcile whatever is wrong. For example, there's 2 slaves, I need 1 slave. It'll fix that for you. But the great thing is you can literally deploy the operator. The operator is a Kubernetes object, the container itself, it starts and it starts running. So you can go from nothing to a full-blown operator running your application, one line of code, or one command, I should say. Definitely not one line of code. So the Operator SDK comes with the operator framework, contains the SDK itself, some metering, some lifecycle management. Check it out on GitHub. If you want to dive into all the fun things like Operator Lifecycle Manager, the operator metering, that is all in the SDK there for you. All right, so I mentioned more people know Ansible and Go, so that's a good reason to write things in Ansible. But basically, you do an Operator SDK new after you get the tool or the framework installed. You throw in all your roles, everything else you want in that operator, and then hit build. It'll connect to your cluster, deploy the whole thing for you, and you're done. You then, version control that YAML, and you're good. So, like I said, utilize your existing skills. You don't have to teach a bunch of people to write Go, or you don't have that one person on your ops team that happens to know some Go, and they get stuck writing all the operators. So, if you know Ansible, a little bit of Kubernetes, you'll be good to go. Lower barrier of entry. That's what I'm all about personally. That's why I like Ansible. If you have used any of the chefs, the puppets, the Ansibles, it's generally considered the easier to use. But it's also declarative like Kubernetes as well, in that you say, hey, I want this thing, and it'll do it. All right. So operators have levels, surprisingly. Helm operators will do that basic install for you. Everything else after that requires a little bit more logic. That's where Ansible and Go can come in to help you out. So like patching and everything else, you can kind of do that with Helm. I feel like now Helm 3 is probably going to help a lot move its capabilities up the chart here. But the idea is a phase 5 operator is just autopilot. It'll handle scaling. It'll handle configuration tuning changes, anomaly detection, the whole 9 yards. If your operator can detect, from whatever Prometheus, from whatever monitoring or load balancing thing you're using, that traffic is heavy, it could go change your replica set itself and scale out on its own. You can configure it to do that. So, performance hit. Let's talk about that for a second, right? Like Go is fast. Go is the native thing for Kubernetes. Ansible's Python. Okay, Ansible's also going to call its own code and then call that Go code to run things against the API in case. So is Ansible slower? Technically, yes, but it's an operator. It's waiting for events and then triggering stuff. It's a lot faster than you will ever be. So just think of it like that. If you're worried that much about performance, you definitely should be writing it in Go. But the performance hit is not that great. It is way faster than just about anything. Go ahead.
Basic idea of percent.
No, because here's the thing, right? We are having this debate, like, hey, we should write, workshops for operators. Okay, what do we do with it? Like, we have 45 minutes for a workshop. If you're going from nothing to Ansible operators, like that's a big lift. So you need a longer workshop because you have to teach Ansible and Kubernetes, or you have to teach Kubernetes and Go and the Operator SDK. So yeah. Yeah.
Not straight.
Right. So yeah, and the workshop I first sat in when I started working on this was like, yeah, and you could do these things in Ansible. Like that was it. It's like, oh, by the way, that's not okay. So yeah, like the idea here is that operator the binary itself is running in a pod. It's using a watch file, which you define. What resources do you want to watch? And then when an event happens, the playbook runs. I didn't draw these charts, so I'm not even going to try to explain it. It's a pretty picture, but the idea here is your YAML file defines what you're looking for. Talks to the Operator SDK, custom resource definition, case API. When things happen, Ansible triggers, and off you go. Ansible also has all that tooling to feed into the logging and everything else. That all just happens natively inside Kubernetes. All right. Let's actually look at some YAML here. So, or commands, sorry. The Operator SDK new, again, you're defining the API version, kind, and then you type in, by default it's Go. You give it the type of Ansible and off and running. So what does that create? Like I said, that watches file. It builds that, initial operator. Have some actual YAML here somewhere. Never mind. There we go. So, who here doesn't know what an Ansible role is? Okay, great, awesome. So think of an Ansible role as a group of files that are either templates, I have the whole thing here, metadata about it, a series of tasks, and you group all that together and you can make a role, and then that role can then be reused across your organization or run multiple times to put some application or some infrastructure piece in place and maintain its configuration. So that watches.yaml file is like the thing to do. It's a very simple definition. It's literally 4 lines. Well, 5 if you count the dashes. But it says, like, you create this version, you create this group in this kind, and what do you want to do? Well, here's the path of the playbook. It's Ansible after that. Like, that is literally the YAML you write to make this work. The custom resource spec, you can throw in extra vars. It'll handle that. So yeah, when you do Operator SDK build, what happens behind the scenes? So the Operator SDK it'll build a binary. It'll throw the Ansible stuff you wrote in there, and then it uses a binary called Ansible Runner, which is like a super stripped down version of the Ansible engine, like not super helpful by itself. And so we throw in the Python libraries and everything else to make the Operator SDK work with it, and off you go. So when you build your operator, it looks very familiar from building a normal container. But what you see is it copies the roles that you define. So these could be pre-existing roles. These could be roles you found on Ansible Galaxy. Eventually, we will have tons of pre-baked operators that are available. Well, actually, they're available now. I'll show you where here in a second. But yeah, like this is an actual operator to do Galera DB. Anybody familiar with Galera? It manages Galera for you. James Camerata wrote it. He's got 2 blog posts on Ansible.com about it. Basically, it does that full lifecycle management of database pairs. And you deploy the operator and off you go. That's it. So it creates all, go ahead.
Where do you define the watch events? That's the watches YAML.
Well, so I'll get to that.
Okay, get to that.
Yeah, like,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. So I didn't create this presentation. I provided feedback, but this is good because I like the fact that you're asking these questions. I should show you code first and then explain it, as opposed to explain all the shit and then show you code. It's good feedback. So like I said, it creates the RBAC service accounts, everything you need for the operator itself, creates the CRD, deploys the operator to the cluster, and then initializes that CR. If you want to find a shitload of operators, we have what we call operatorhub.io. A lot of companies have contributed operators for their projects or products. Aqua has theirs. There's Postgres ones. We have quite a few. Those niche projects from Red Hat obviously have theirs. Let's see. All right, so Ansible.com/operators has links to all this stuff. If you have time, like I said, there's James's thing. So what you do, so the thing that it watches, to answer your question, is looking for events in the Kubernetes, like logs. And those events will trigger whatever playbook you have defined. So the Operator SDK is the thing that's actually managing that, and you just tell it, look for stuff happening to my thing, group version kind, and it will trigger that playbook. Now, if it's just like, warning info or whatever, there's like a threshold you can define as well. Don't do anything at this level kind of deal.
So there are families of events then that you can say trigger on rather than specifying it?
Yes. So here, let's do this. We're going to go off the script because, yeah. Live coding, it's fun.
Off script is best script.
Yes, no script. Let me get a full screen here. There we go. All right, I know nobody can see that. Hang on. Can you see it in the back?
So we turn off the light, that's like really right with the, but we can see it.
How about that? Does that help? No? All right. Ooh, mood lighting. All right, so I wrote literally the dumbest operator ever. It's for MOTD. It will run when MOTD changes. Why would you ever need that in a Kubernetes cluster, though? When do you log in the stuff in a Kubernetes cluster, like the actual container itself?
Usually just a detective system.
That could work too. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So let's just look at this real quick, right? Like, there's not a lot to it. The only things are in here. You got to build, deploy, molecule. We'll talk about that in a second. The roles, and then the watches file. So the molecule is a project that Ansible adopted last summer. What it does is it allows you to unit and shitloads of testing for Ansible roles, right? Like, it could reach all the way into your cluster and deploy stuff like as a test infrastructure deployment for anything you're writing in Ansible. So let's look in there real quick. All right, so let's see, test cluster. We'll have, there we go. The molecule definition basically says, hey, do these things in this order. So it does, it will take your playbook, it will provision it in, a cluster locally, however you want it defined. It can spin up VMs and Vagrant if you want, however you define it. The provisioner here is Ansible. It's going to reach out to Kubernetes cluster here, and then it'll lint. It will do all the testing you want, and you have a series of commands. You can lint, destroy, rebuild, create, do syntax checking, the whole 9 yards. But if you do a converge, it will do the full life cycle for testing, application management, the whole 9 yards. So this is a way for you to write your playbooks and then test them wherever you need to. So we use that here for obvious reasons. It's super easy to connect this stuff with Ansible and super easy to test things with Molecule. Last year, I worked with the developer to make sure that Ansible could actually be used to provision things that wasn't in the original Molecule code. I don't know why. You also couldn't, you couldn't do any like actual unit testing of Molecule with anything other than like Flake8, like all these really hard tools like test infra. Like, it wasn't super user friendly. So yeah, we worked on that a little bit and made it a little bit easier to use. So now you can actually deploy things. So what does the Molecule playbook do? Wow. So you don't have to write any of this. This is defined for you. That's the best part about the Operator SDK. You don't worry about any of this stuff. Isn't that nice? Less YAML to write is good. All right. Yep. I didn't write a single line of that. So what's the watches.yaml file here? Created a version, v1. Created a group at motd.example.com. And then a kind, all caps MOTD. And what is it going to do? It's going to run this role that I created. Well, what's in this roles directory? If you go into the roles directory, you will see MOTD. This looks starting to look familiar, right? Oh my God, that's just an Ansible directory, right? Like, you are now writing Ansible code. That's it. Like you can pull a role off a Galaxy and turn it into an operator. It'll deploy a full-blown application. Done. I don't recommend doing that. Like make sure you go through the, everything, reread it. But like in here, it's literally a super simple. Not the task. Sorry. Question is, do I have the latest version of this thing? Yes, yes, live coding. Chris, remember commands. Dash F?
Yeah, I'll pull that up.
No. Nope. Ah, crap. How do you do the LSL everything? Star, that's right. There we go. Oh, there's literally nothing in here. There we go. Okay. Fucking nothing in here.
What are you searching for here?
Oh, hang on. I know what I'm doing wrong. At least I thought I did. All right. This is what you need, the Docker file. So you go into this build directory, and that's where this Docker file is. And that's what you're telling it to do. Run Ansible Galaxy install my role. I don't have a role defined in my roles directory because I'm pulling it from Galaxy. But you go pull down that role, which I should have here somewhere, hopefully. The operator, what did I call it? All right, back to the browser. Okay, oh, there it is. So, who's familiar with Ansible Galaxy? Okay, cool. Let me explain what Galaxy is. Ansible Galaxy, you have these roles, right? Like you write these roles, they're super awesome. They do these cool things. They install MySQL places. They install your application, all these fun places. It handles all your dependencies, does all this cool stuff. Why don't you share that with the rest of the world? Because it's YAML and it can help people. This is what it's for. You define, a little bit of metadata, and you can upload anything. Basically, anything from GitHub can end up on Galaxy. So let's go look at what this role actually does. See, there's stuff in here now. So requirements, none. Variables, none. Here's your playbook. Yeah, just run the role, please. Thanks. The role do yak shaving. So the premise for this operator, I should explain this. Why did I create this MOTD operator? I had 15 minutes to explain Ansible operators to a crowd of people at Red Hat Summit. Literally in the middle of the showroom floor. So no motion, that was the request. No video, no sound. Make a demo somehow. So yeah, that's where this came from. But if you look, super simple. Save the state. That's the name of the first task, right? So I've got an MOTD template that I'm going to deploy here, or copy. Not a template, sorry. A MOTD file that I will use the copy module to deploy to wherever. And then if it needs to be refreshed, the template will do it. I'm explaining this terribly. It's YAML. Sorry. So let's see. Where is my? Do I have connection to a cluster right now?
Does that Ansible runner run the roles locally by default?
So Ansible, so Molecule can do it locally by default.
What I'm asking, what I'm wondering about is because, like, my familiarity with Ansible is that every time you run role or playbook, you're targeting a host.
Right. So you just define localhost. Right. That's basically what it does.
Okay.
Ansible runner will handle the, hey, I'm talking to everything else. With the Operator SDK, Ansible runner is built into that. And that handles all the execution of where you should be.
So it just runs to localhost by default, always. Or
Well, so no. Molecule, you can define where you run it, but by default, it will say, yes, I'm just going to do this stuff locally. And what does it use? I think it uses Vagrant. Like spins up a default image of Vagrant. So let's see, what was I looking for? Oh, we're actually going to try and deploy something. What do I have in here? That's a problem. Oh, shit. All right. Okay, there we go. All right. So I don't have an operator here. I have, I run so my newsletter, DevOps-ish, I run a Telegram channel. Why Telegram? Why not? It's not Slack. But it's open to the world. So I need a bot to keep the spammers and crappy Russian like Bitcoin miners out. So this bot's running on this cluster in GKE right now. It's all managed by GitLab actually. So I just threw the YAML at GitLab, it handled everything else. So let's deploy this MOTD operator now that I'm actually connected to a cluster. Okay, so since I have the Docker file, it's pulling the role from Galaxy, like I showed you here. Show you again real quick. Build Docker file. So it's going to pull that role from Galaxy, deploy the cluster with the Operator SDK, all 9 yards. So who thinks this is just going to work out of the box? Show of hands. No faith. Operator SDK. Oh, I've been busy with this. Build. Nope, not that. No, I don't want build. What do I want? We will do. Hang on. All right, you know what? RTFM, let's go. Yay, live coding's the best. Am I like out of time or anything?
No, you're good.
You okay.
About 5 or 10 minutes.
Cool. Operator. Well, you know, the whole thing's kind of off script.
I don't think you need to apologize.
Oh, no problem. So this is the Operator SDK repo. The Ansible bits are, where did we hide them? Find out, search your history. There it is. Ansible user guide. We have a better user guide on OpenShift.com now. It's in the OpenShift documentation. If you're an OpenShift user, it's like tailored for that. But if you want to just like get to the guts of it, this is what it is. There's all the prerequisites, right? Like you need dep, you need runner. It does all that for you though. Like if you're trying to build it, you need those. All right, so created a new project here. Got the watches file. All this fun stuff in there. Now, what do I want to do? So it gives you like, hang on. All right. So I got to do these. That would work. But we're going to cheat. Hate people that do that. Put the fucking dollar. Come on. It's fixed width. I don't need the dollar sign. Why? Because here's what happens. Oh, do you want to paste all these lines in? Yeah, sure. They're not going to fucking work, asshole. Sorry, I used to be in the Air Force. I worked with a lot of Marines. My bad. All right, so basically you run all these deploy kubectl commands, create it, and boom, it's off and running. Like that's how fast it was. So what's happening here? Okay, get all again. Let's see, you see the MOTD operator? You got a deployment, the replica set, the whole 9 yards, the pod, it's creating. Let's see what's going on here. Anyone ever use K9S? Love that thing. All right, so if you haven't heard of K9s, think of it as like HTOP or top for Kubernetes. Oh, my container's fucking up. Oh, it's in a crash backup loop and no logs are available. Oh. So yeah, no idea why that's broken. Let's go look at the container file since I have like 2 minutes. Get out of there. All right.
Oh, by Chris Short.
Owned, that's right. Where did it go? Actually, oh, I hate that. I don't need the namespace, thanks though. Oh my god. Oh shit, it doesn't exist. Oh, this isn't Suicide Linux. Anyone ever heard of that? Huh? Am I losing my mind?
You are.
In your home directory is on it.
Thanks.
Directory.
Of course. Ah, yay. Oh, there's lots of stuff in here. What the hell? Right. Why wouldn't that work?
The question is why they're locked.
Right. Oh, it's because I'm really good at containers. Let me tell you, I'm a container expert. So I don't know why that broke, to be honest with you, but I wonder what it's doing now. Yep, still foobar.
That one says version 5. The version number in the previous file.
Yeah, your Docker file said from version 4.
Oh, did it? Huh.
Well, it was inheriting from a different image.
Yeah, let's go look at this guy though.
Operator push up and move.
I don't know. If I were like not off a plane, I'd probably know.
Version 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. What's in it? That's the question. Why is it breaking? Actually, let's do this. Oh my God, just do it.
Chris, do you want to finish up with this?
Yeah, why not? So, again, thanks for having me. I don't know where the slides went. Fuck it, that's fine. Sorry, Chris or C-Short at redhat.com. If you have questions, I can send you all the documentation. I'll drop the slides in Meetup or the Slack. Pick one.
Slack.
Okay.
That's fine. You're also super active in Slack as well. So if you have questions.
Yeah, like if you just ping me on Slack, I can help you out. Seriously, like I think operators are designed to lower the barrier to entry. So if you have problems with it, let me know. And like I can give that feedback back to the actual developers and they can fix it. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.